Good afternoon, everybody. We are all here for Lunch with the League. I am Pam Wycliffe, and my committee folks that are with me here are Kathy Platt and Melanie Smith-Guillaume. And we are here with Lunch with the League, and I have a little, of course, a blurb to say before it starts, as always. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. We encourage informed, active participation in government. We never support or oppose a political party or a candidate. And we have two forks, or a fork, not two forks. One is voter services and citizen education. And the other one is action and advocacy. As nonpartisan, we do studies, and we do support studies and solutions. We do not solutions. Yeah, we solutions too, but we don't support a particular candidate. So, given that, the comments and opinions that folks give today will be their own. They won't be necessarily from the League of Women Voters. And we're here from noon till 1. And the general format, and this will be up to Elizabeth and her team, but the general format is for a half hour of discussion or of speaker stuff, and then a half hour of question and answers. If everyone will please remain muted so that we have a good quality sound. And if you would, if it's okay with Elizabeth, do you want us to put the questions in the chat?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. And then
ask it either
and
way.
then you can read them, or Melanie said she would read them. I may not be able to be here the full time because I've got little people in my house, but she can read them to you and you can answer them, you guys, if that's how you want to do it.
Either way will be fine.
Okay. And if folks would like to know more about the League of Women Voters and their positions, you can go to the League at lwvsouthbend.org. And that will also have a link to the state league and also to the national league for more information about who we are and what we do and the positions that we take. A little bit of news beforehand, and there's, this is the time of year, right? That there's lots of stuff. One is that, and some of this, I'm not going to elaborate on any of it because Elizabeth might mention some of it anyway, and her people. But the U.S. Senate candidate debate is on Sunday, October the 16th, and it's live streamed at indianadebatecommission.com at between 7 and 8. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Is that okay? Yep. I keep waiting for Elizabeth to say yes or no. Another thing is the League of Women
should be on pretty much every commercial and public station as well, so you can check out your local listings. But we'll broadcast it live out of WFYI in Indianapolis. But we do send this signal to all of the stations as well as newspapers, radios, etc. So you'll see it everywhere.
Okay. Another thing is the League of Women Voters Lake Michigan region is having their 2022 conference and annual meeting on October 21st and 22nd. And you can go, I think, to our website for more information about that, and or the Facebook page. It might be on there as well about how to get involved with that. Mark your calendars. Law Academy, which is a free half-day legal information fair where you can learn more about your legal rights on Saturday, October the 22nd, 8:30 in the morning till noon at the Community Learning Center at the library at the St. Joe County Public Library. There will be refreshments, and then there will be breakout sessions. See, refreshments will get you there, right? And then there'll be breakout sessions that talk about tenant rights, immigration, advanced directives, family law. And our own Elizabeth is one of the co-hosts for that. There is
Yes, I'll
also,
be presenting on tort law. Oh, wait, I mean voting rights.
okay, yeah. Okay, also, there is a third annual Bill of Rights Day contest. The United States District Court of the Northern District of Indiana is participating in the third annual Bill of Rights Day contest hosted by the courts in the 7th and 8th Circuit, and that's pretty much Midwest. And these are for essays, for art and essays on the importance of the Bill of Rights. And there are guidelines for that. And I hope somebody can put the link in, because I'm busy. I can't put it in. Put in the link for where you can submit your essay or your child's essay, the people's essay. It's from kids from the age of grades 5 through 12. Submissions have to be in by October the 30th at 5 p.m. And so pass this along if there are folks you know that might want to write an essay about the importance of our Bill of Rights. There. That's the end of my little announcements. And now I would like to introduce our speakers for today. And they are the students from Indiana University South Bend and their professor who will moderate. Elizabeth Bennion is the Chancellor's Professor of Political Science, American Democracy Project Director at Indiana University South Bend. And so I will introduce Elizabeth, and then she can introduce the panel of students serving as the ADP, American Democracy Project, as Democracy Fellows. That sounds very important to me, to be a fellow, even though I'd be a she fellow, anyway. Dr. Bennion has received her BA of American Studies from Smith College and an MA and a PhD in political science from University of Wisconsin-Madison. She teaches American politics with the emphasis on political behavior, and she's the founding director of IUSB's American Democracy Project, the director of voter services and education for our local League of Women Voters. She is the president of Indiana Debate Commission and the host of WNIT's live weekly television program, Politically Speaking. And in these capacities, she moderates political discussions, public issue forums, and candidate debates for local, state, and national candidates. And she has been a very busy lady lately with all of our candidates that are running for our midterm election. And so I'm going to turn it over to her, and she can take it from there. And thank you all for coming.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We have a lot to say about the election and a little bit of time to say it. So we'll get to it pretty quickly. I'm going to ask our Democracy Fellows to very briefly introduce themselves, and then we'll get into the content about what you need to know about the 2022 midterm election, including a sneak peek at the candidates on your ballot. Joe?
Hi, my name is Joe Kurtz. I am an elementary education major at IU South Bend.
Ashley?
Hi, my name is Ashley Rose. I am a junior at IU South Bend, and I am studying political science.
And James?
Hi, my name is James Schultz. I'm a sophomore at IUSB, and I'm majoring in criminal justice.
So as you can see, we draw from political science, but also other fields. Education and criminal justice are represented here today because, of course, we think that all students should be committed to our shared civic mission of educating the next generation of informed citizens for democracy. So we're thrilled to have an interdisciplinary team. We are a team that probably would not all cast our votes the same way, I suspect, but share this commitment to an informed electorate and a representative democracy. So I'm just thrilled with this group of incredibly hardworking ADP interns who are serving as this year's Democracy Fellows. And today, what they're going to be doing, they've been doing a lot of things, but is talking to you about the upcoming midterm election. So I'm going to share my screen, and then the students will take it from there. Let me see. Why do I not see? Well, I thought I would share my screen. Let me.
Does Pam need to hit the?
No, I think the problem is it's the way that Zoom screen share looks. It's not showing me the window. I need 1 second here. I try to unshare and then reshare. Oops.
Are you there?
Nope. I gotta.
I'm screen sharing.
Okay. I'm gonna stop sharing, then I'm gonna start sharing again. So there we go. Don't screen share. I want to screen share. Are you screen
What?
sharing?
I was screen sharing. You don't want me to?
No, because that will be your screen.
Well, I can't even. I can't. Okay.
My screen.
I can't get out of it.
Okay. Do you all see my screen right now? What you need to know about the 2022?
No, I can't.
Nope.
Screen sharing.
Pam's gonna have to stop screen sharing first. before
Right,
you
and
can get yours on.
Hey, there it is.
Here.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought
now
I was
you can.
helping.
Yay, yes,
Okay.
good.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So here we go.
I am muted still, sorry. This presentation is going to go over a lot of different information. We'll be going over the requirements for voting, the timeline of which you can vote, different deadlines that may be coming up or have already passed. We'll be talking about election day, how to vote by absentee in person, as well as absentee by mail. And then we will inform you guys on different candidates on your ballots, as well as spread some education about what the League and ADP has been doing to educate voters. Okay, so the requirements to vote in the 2020 general election are the same to previous years. You must be a citizen of the United States. You must be at least 18 years old on or before election day. You need to be living in a current precinct for at least 30 days before the election. You cannot currently be in prison after committing a crime. You must be registered to vote at least 29 days before the election, which would have been October 11th by midnight. And you require a government issued photo ID.
One thing, of course, with the League of Women Voters that many of you know is it's really only those two first bullet points that are federal requirements. The rest of those are state specific. And so residency requirements, whether or not you're disenfranchised after committing a felony, whether you regain those rights, whether or not there's a pre-registration requirement or you have same-day registration or even automatic registration that's opt-out in your state, and whether or not you require that photo ID at the polls, all of that is based on state law. Indiana is ranked 36 in terms of the easiest state to cast a ballot, 36 out of 50. So you do see there are a lot of additional restrictions here in our state.
So your ID. Your ID has to meet 4 criteria. It's got to have your photo, have your name, and that name has to conform to your voter registration record. It has to have an expiration date and be issued by the state of Indiana or the U.S. government. This can be Indiana driver's license, photo ID card, a military ID, U.S. passport, all are good. And also, a student ID from an Indiana state school can be used, but only if it meets all 4 of the criteria that I listed.
One thing you may get questions about from voters is what does the word conform mean? So that means that they can recognize it as your name. Elizabeth A. Bennion, Liz A. Bennion, Elizabeth Bennion would all be considered conforming. It's when somebody has a completely different name. For example, we have preferred names on our student ID. If a student had a name that really is not recognizable, not similar enough to it would not conform and would not be able to be used for voter identification. So conform does not mean identical, but it does need to be close enough that that person working the polls can reasonably say this is the same person.
So some important deadlines, a couple of have already passed. If you're not registered to vote already, sorry, maybe next time. So we're in early voting now. Goes from October the 12th all the way up into the day before election day, November 7th. And that ballot is due by noon. And then Tuesday, November 8th is election day. Polls close at 6 p.m.
Again, with those hours, again, that varies by state. We are the earliest in the nation to close at 6 p.m. In terms of the early voting, the Secretary of State does prefer that we call it absentee in person, just to signal that they don't actually count those ballots before election day. Although sometimes when waiting for results, we wish they would have.
Okay, so looking at when and where to vote, as mentioned prior, voting early does begin on Wednesday, October 12th, which was just a couple days ago. And then all locations Monday through Friday will be open 8 a.m. to 4:30 for early voting. And then the circuit court clerk office will be open for a full 7 hours on 2 Saturdays. Those are October 29th and November 5th. And then, of course, election day, as mentioned by Elizabeth, we have the earliest closing, but it is 12 hours from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Which isn't the least hours. We do have some states with only 9 hours. So it's not the longest at 15 hours, but not the shortest either.
Yes. Okay, and then there is additional early voting information for St. Joseph County. This information is also on the League of Women Voters Facebook page. So you can get different timestamps and locations from there. And you can also get this information on indianavoters.com.
Yeah, a couple of absentee by mail deadlines. Thursday, October 27th, applications are due by midnight. And you can see the address there. And then Monday, November 7th, they must receive your ballots by noon. So even if it's postmarked or whatever, it's not going to count. They have to receive it. So we have a bunch of qualifications in Indiana for voting by mail. So we have, if you have a specific expectation that you won't be present during polling hours, that qualifies. If you're confined on election day due to illness or injury, or if you're the caretaker of a confined person during those polling hours, if you have a disability, if you're 65 years of age or older, if you're scheduled to work at your regular place of work during those polling hours, if you have religious or holiday reasons, if you're in the military or you're a public safety officer, if you're part of Indiana's address confidentiality program, if you're a serious sex offender. And finally, if you have no mode of transportation to get to the polling place, that counts as well. Interesting to note, a lot of states don't have all the qualifications that Indiana does. Here's just a graphic we put together from a video about all these qualifications, just showing you all the things that Indiana requires in terms of showing that you are able to vote absentee by mail.
There was an attempt in the last legislative session to add that you would certify that you were not able to go in person during any of the 28 days of early voting. That did not pass in the legislature, but we could see that come up again.
I think it's awesome that anybody 65 or over can just automatically qualify.
Most states, everybody does, but yes.
Okay, looking at this slide, we are looking at the national map for the Senate. Pictured on the left is the contested map. This election for the Senate is especially important because there are 2 seats that are up to be, that can make the difference as to whether the Senate will be leaning in the Republican Party favor or in the Democratic Party favor.
Right, so 50-50 now, 49-49, we feel pretty confident about 2 seats up for grabs. It's anybody's guess of which party will control the Senate moving forward.
And then similar to the previous page, you can see the interactive contested map of the House. Here we have, I believe, 13 seats that could make the difference as to whether this will be in the Republican favor or the Democratic favor for the upcoming years to follow.
Yeah, and if you look at, again, that current breakdown, 3 vacancies, but 220 Democrats, 212 Republicans, the interactive current prediction there, 26 to 216, that would be typical with the president's party losing seats in that midterm election in the House. But with 13, if you add those 13 all to the 206, you could see that Democrats could potentially hold on to the House, though it will be an uphill battle. So both the House and the Senate are anybody's game. That's one reason the election is so important. Whether you would like to see Republicans or Democrats in control, this election clearly is going to make some people very happy and some people very upset. But more importantly, it will have a big impact on public policy moving forward.
All right, so I'll discuss who's on your ballot for the St. Joseph County 2022 election. So let's start first with the federal elections. For the US Senate, each state has 2 senators and they serve 6-year terms. And according to the Constitution, they represent the states through taking actions on bills, resolutions, amendments, nominations, and treaties. We have 3 candidates that will be on the ballot for US Senate. The first one is Mayor Thomas McDermott, and the current senator right now is Todd Young, and the Libertarian challenger is James Snizak. And for the second congressional district, unfortunately, Jackie Walorski died, and the Republicans decided to replace her with Rudy Yakum, and Congress is basically responsible for representing people through bills and serving on committees. As I said, Rudy Yakum is the Republican, Paul Sturry is the Democrat, and then William Henry is the Libertarian. And last week we had a debate between the 2nd District U.S. Congress. Paul Sturry and William Henry participated in that.
Yes, and as Pam mentioned at the beginning, there will be a debate on Sunday, the 16th of October for U.S. Senate, 7 to 8 p.m. All 3 candidates will be participating. All 3 have also participated in the vote411.org guide, which is run by the League of Women Voters, the American Democracy Project, and especially James this year provide a lot of help with that guide and getting it all to work on the technical side and getting all those candidates to reply. We did help the state league out just to get the Libertarian and Republican to reply. That was McDermott had already applied, and we noticed that we wanted all 3. And so I was able to ask them in the course of my other conversations with them about the debate to please go ahead and do that. And the campaign managers were great and did respond to that personal request right away. And both of those candidates are featured in the guide. Right now, we only have the Democrat and Libertarian in the Vote 411 guide, but I did receive last night or early this morning, one of those, an email from John George, the campaign manager for Rudy Yakum, saying that he will be getting those responses into the guide as soon as possible. So we do expect to see all 3 of those candidates featured in the league's guide as well.
I have a quick question about write-in candidates. How do we handle write-in candidates for the election, those that are available to us?
Who's we? The voter?
How do we, as the League of Women Voters, or you as the American Democracy Project, or we as voters handle that?
Yeah, so we currently do not have write-in candidates in the debates. In other states, what has happened once commissions and leagues have write-in candidates in the debate, more and more write-in candidates, it proliferates. And so there's a real balance, because on the one hand, we want as many views as possible, which is why we always include minor parties who are on the ballot. On the other hand, once you start getting 10, 11, 12 candidates, some of whom have not even raised $5 into your debates, it's really hard to hear from to get to many policies and have substantive conversations. There are a couple of write-in, there are, a few write-in candidates on the ballot. There's one for the special election, and then a different one for the general election for the 2nd district. There are a few for the Senate, and then maybe one for. No,
I think you
there are
covered them all.
state
Yeah.
ones. For what? For
I
governor?
think you covered them all for.
Yeah, I
the
think
federal
that's just
elections.
it. But we definitely would, I think one thing we could do is add them to vote 411. We were happy to do that because people would, for the general election, that really is a general election guide. So that people could at least learn about them and decide if they want to write in a name. The write-in candidates are not on the ballot, and they're not listed anywhere at the polling place. So you do need to know that name and how to spell it when you enter the ballot booth so that you can write that in. Someone can say they're a write-in candidate. So if you look at Ballotpedia, the list is much longer than it is in the official list by the Secretary of State. It would be only those official write-in candidates that will be counted on election day.
So you can't write in Mickey Mouse.
You can, but it won't.
Well, I
yeah,
mean, it's not going to
counted,
count for
tallied,
anything.
yeah.
You can, but I digress. Okay, for the state house elections, there's one state senate election for the 2022 election. That's between current state senator Linda Rogers and Mindy Fountain. And for the state house district 5, there's a contested election between Representative Dale Devine and Heidi Brenninger. And both of the Senate and House, the winners of these elections will serve in the Indiana General Assembly. And for Indiana State House District 6 and 8, both of the candidates are running uncontested.
The other thing I just did want to say, Beth, one of the things we did, the league, the national, state, and local guides are combined for vote 411. And we noticed that the state had not included the write-in candidates, which is one reason we did not do that at our level, to create questions about why some of them are showing up and some aren't, because you do need to treat them all the same. So we probably should have a conversation with the state about why they decided not to include them and whether they plan to do so moving forward. Because the critical thing that the national has said is you can include them or not. We lean toward including, but you may have to make sure that your state actually has an official list so that you're having the right people, and then you have to treat them all the same. So once we saw that the state had not done it, it made it more difficult for us to do. Also, we did have folks running for the special election, but that's confusing to voters because it's also in different districts. And right now we're all districted for the current districts, post redistricting, post census, and for the general election. So we don't really have a separate guide right now for the special election just to fill Walorski's seat through January when the new person takes office.
Okay, here's some more House district races. District 7, Representative Jake Teska is running against Democrat Ross Deal. And in Indiana House District 21, Representative Timothy Wesco has a Democrat challenger, Camden Chafee.
And the Teska Dale race is very interested. As many of you will know, Ross Deal did serve in this district before Jake Teska rightly looked at the district and decided it could be competitive and won the seat. And now Ross Deal is trying to win it back. So that's often thought of as the most contested or competitive of the races. Ross Deal does have information in the guide. I don't believe that Representative Teska has answered yet. You can also read responses from Representative Timothy Wesco. I think we're still waiting from Camden Chafee. He's been a bit difficult to contact this season.
Yep. Okay, moving on to some more countywide elections. The prosecuting attorney, that is currently uncontested, and Kenneth P. Cotters will be on the ballot for that. And for judge of the circuit court, Judge Johnny Broden will be on the ballot also. And one of the most highly contested county elections is the clerk of the circuit court. Lana Cleary, the Democrat, and Amy Rolfes, the Republican, are running, and some of the clerk's responsibilities is they oversee elections in St. Joseph County. They also are responsible for collecting monies and fees for like child support and other various fees that people throughout the county have to pay. They also issue licenses for marriage and notices for jurors too.
And you can read about both candidates in the vote411.org guide. We really encourage people not only to read it, but to share it out to other people, encourage friends to read it. The most common thing that I hear in our community is, well, I don't know how I could possibly get information about all these candidates. I don't know anything about the local candidates. We would say there's no excuse for that, because we spend hours and hours and hours and hours every single week getting candidates to answer, and the candidates this year have responded. You can see John Broden, even though he's uncontested, as well as Lana Cleary, Amy Rolfes, all of them have given detailed answers to the questions that we as ADP and League have asked them to respond to that are relevant to their jobs. So if people have questions about how they can learn about these candidates, they can enter their address into vote411.org. They can get a customized ballot showing the candidates on their ballot, and they can read about each of these candidates and where they stand. And we're also thankful to our partners at the Tribune they have been putting those out. If you get the local paper, you'll see race by race. They feature contested races and select questions from the guide, while then asking readers to go back to vote411.org to learn about more candidates and to hear more from the featured candidates in each paper.
Well said. And here's some more St. Joseph County elections. The auditor is responsible for like overseeing the finances for the county. There are two new candidates that are on the ballot, Democrat John Murphy and Desmond Upchurch, the Republican. And for county sheriff, Sheriff Bill Redmond is running for a second term in office, and he will face a challenger, Kevin McGowan, the Republican. And for county assessor, the county assessor is just responsible for assessing property values throughout the county. And Ted Booker is the Democrat nominee, while Mike Castellan is the Republican nominee.
Some of you may remember back to the primaries, and we did a presentation somewhat similar to this, and be surprised that some of the uncontested races in the primaries are now contested. A party does have the ability to fill that seat. And so you can see that parties have gone ahead and done that. And so St. Joe County Democrats and Republicans have done a great job of actually slotting candidates, whether or not they held a primary, to make these races contested. Mike Castellan in particular was a near primary for Penn Township assessor, but the party decided to contest the countywide assessor race, and that's why you see him here now. I believe everybody except McGowan has put their answers in the vote 411. We also, some of you will know, we usually with the League and American Democracy Project, ABC 57 News, host a sheriff debate almost every 4 years. We did offer that opportunity. Sheriff Redmond did accept that debate opportunity, but Mr. McGowan was not interested in participating, or has not followed up with us after saying the initial date proposed would not work.
There's also a contested county commissioner seat. District 1 is the only seat that is contested this election cycle. There will be 3 candidates on the ballot. Carl Baxmeyer, the Republican, Donald Westernhausen, the Democrat, and Kevin Connery, the Independent. And what the county commissioner does is they just approve measures that benefit the county, such as just like allocating money and approving resolutions for the county.
Yeah, and as you know, many of these county level races captured public attention during the pandemic, because decisions about mask mandates were being made with the advice of county health officials, but by the council and the commission. So we saw a lot of attention to these races. We also, in terms of redistricting and redistricting reform and drawing the maps, we know that this is incredibly important race, but economic development as well, right? So all these things that affect us in St. Joe County, you want to read about them, what they are, and where the candidates stand, both for your commission and your council.
Okay, so the following map on the screen here is the county council map districts. And the contested districts are A, B, C. Oh, I was still talking there, but that's okay. So
I
here's
was going to help you out there. Put them on the
You're
screen.
good. Okay, the St. Joseph County elections, as you can see here, like all the elections are contested for Republicans and Democrats. So that's really nice to see that voters can have an option to choose between candidates. And the St. Joseph County Council, they're responsible for passing ordinances and resolutions while having the responsibility of allocating money to the townships within St. Joseph County. So as you can see, there's County District A, there's B, there's C, and I believe E and H are contested this election cycle. There's a good look at all the candidates. And for the township races, St. Joseph County has a total of 13 townships. And on the ballot, you will see an election for a trustee and 3 board members in your township. And that's just a map of the townships in your district. So here's a list of all the candidates that will be on your ballot. As you can see, you will elect 1 trustee. Parties have nominated 1 candidate per trustee position. And for the board position, parties can nominate up to 3 candidates per township board. There's Green Township, Harris Township, Liberty Township. There's also Lincoln Township, Madison Township, Olive Township, and Penn Township has an assessor. That's not accurate. It's Cherry DeFries. I just noticed that now. He was on the ballot for the spring election, but Cherry DeFries has filled that spot. For Penn Township trust, okay, I was still speaking there. Sorry.
Yep. I clicked by mistake.
Yeah, Penn Township trustee, Doors Police, Porlosi, and Penn Township Board. There's 6 candidates up for election, and 5 of those candidates have responded to the guide. So if you live in Penn Township, I highly recommend looking at the guide and seeing where the candidates stand on the issues. Okay, here's some more township elections: Portage Township, Union Township, Warren Township, and as you can see here, there's Roseland Township at large. There's Walkerton wards too.
Yeah, I like these Walkerton and Roseland folks have not been. It's hard to even get any contact information for them. We're trying to include anything that might be in any part of St. Joe County. A few of them are harder than others. And as you can see, very few of these are actually contested. But what's nice, even if your township level races are uncontested, the guide really, those questions are designed to walk a voter through what it is that trustees and their advisory boards do and what kind of issues they handle. So I would really recommend going and seeing what the candidate said, even if the race is uncontested, because it will just teach you a lot. It's a great civic education opportunity for you and for others that you know to learn what it is that these township folks do.
Okay, you will also see school board elections on your ballot. This is the John Glenn Township, and there's 3 townships in John Glenn, but one of them's in Marshall County, which will of course not be on the St. Joseph County ballot. But there's Lincoln Township that is also contested, and Liberty Township that's contested. And as you can see here, these are the candidates on the ballot.
And James, for John Glenn, voters would just vote within their township. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep. If you live in Lincoln Township, you'd vote for a Lincoln Township candidate, vice versa. So. Okay, so for Penn Harris Madison School Board, this is very interesting because there are 4 seats that are up for election this year, and voters in the PHM district will vote for all 4 candidates, even though they're like sectioned by township. So you will see all 4 races on the ballot. So I'll go through the candidates for you. Seat 7 is an at-large seat. Andy Runs on the ballot, George Bashira, Dan Sullivan, and for Seat 5 in Madison Township, Larry Beeler is running uncontested, and all these candidates have filed as nonpartisan candidates. For Seat 6 in Harris Township, Chris Riley and Brian Jones are on the ballot. And for Penn Township, James Turnwall and Matthew Chafee are on the ballot. So, but all of these candidates will be on the same ballot, if that makes sense.
Right. So unlike what we might expect, you actually can vote for all of them, even though they have to be located themselves in a particular township. The voters get to vote across the township. So that's kind of unusual and different from what most of us are used to. We are planning a forum for these candidates, much like the forum we held for the South Bend Community School Corporation candidates, a conversation with the candidates to be broadcasted by ABC 57 News. And we just heard from a lot of voters who wanted to hear more from these candidates. And so we plan to host that on November 1st from 7 to 8 p.m. at the Madison Penn Harris Public Library. We, being the League of Women Voters of the South Bend area, and the American Democracy Project with our media partner, ABC 57. So stay tuned for more details on that.
Okay, for School City in Mishawaka, there's a board member seat that's uncontested and an at-large member seat that's uncontested also. And it's interesting in the Mishawaka School Board because the mayor actually gets to appoint a member of the school board, along with the city council also gets to appoint a member. So I found that very interesting when I was learning about like all the school board races. It's just amazing like how all of them are different on how you elect members. So in South Bend School Board, the districts are by population size. District 1 is uncontested this year. Well, between just only Kate Lee, and in District 2, there's 4 candidates on the ballot, and in District 5, there's 2 candidates on the ballot. So I would advise going to vote411.org. All of these candidates have responded to the guide, so that would give you a good determination on who to vote for if you live in one of the South Bend school districts.
You can also go to abc57.com and watch the school board forum where they all spoke based on a series of questions that the League and the American Democracy Project had for them. Just a small correction, which is on your ballot. You also will see District 1 candidate Wylette Veldman Weaver. She is still on the ballot, but she has indicated that she is not actively campaigning, and she does support Kate Lee.
Okay, so there will also be 3 judicial retentions on your ballot. Judicial retentions happen every 10 years for judges, and they happen after the 2nd year after a judge has been appointed by the governor. And for Indiana, there's Judge Paul Mathis will be on the ballot, along with Nancy Videk, and for St. Joseph County, Judge Elizabeth C. Hurley will be on the ballot. So these are just retentions. It'll say like, do you agree to retain this judge? So.
Right, and so it is the first after 2 years and then every 10 years.
Correct.
And what's interesting when I looked, because we try to do the GIS for the guide and make sure that people are getting the right districts, and we saw 3 and 5. And I saw 3 and 5, and I said, well, wait, can that be right? That doesn't seem right. Why am I having 3, 5? I shouldn't be in one district. And the reality is that these judges are done a little bit differently than we might think in terms of the districts, because you do have districts that represent the 4th and 5th districts are voted by all voters in the state. So 3rd district has to do with where I live, but 4th and 5th districts is because I'm in the state of Indiana. So that's where you will have more than one district on your ballot. It's not a mistake. You actually are eligible to vote for to retain or not vote. And again, to learn more about all of these candidates, you can hear us talking about this because it takes a lot of work, a lot of follow-up phone calls, emails, Facebook stalking to get all the candidates to answer. And so we are very proud of how many candidates have answered across all political parties, so that voters really can read more about these candidates, learn where they stand. And it's a great service that Vote 411 and the League provides And I want to give a special shout out to James Schultz for helping so much with that guide this year. We also have done some candidate debates, as we mentioned, the congressional candidate debate, which was aired by all of the commercial networks and also on WVPE public radio. The South Bend School Board Candidate Forum aired by ABC 57. And the upcoming forum, this will be the Indiana Debate Commission. But we do encourage folks to hold watch parties at their house and talk about the debate. What we're doing at IU is actually to have a Discord debate watch party. It will be on Discord, which is mostly a gamer platform, but really is made to create a gathering space for anything. So we do welcome faculty, staff, students, and alumni, and we'll be chatting along with the debate. I'll actually be on site checking in the candidates, but I've scheduled myself, so I won't be timekeeping. So I hope to kind of jump on the Discord myself from WFYI. Other things we're doing to mobilize young voters, because some of you asked about that in the spring. We do have some student democracy fellows. You've met them today. Ashley has been doing a lot with our events, Joe with class presentations and education outreach, and James with the voter guide, but it's all hands on deck because we are such a small team. I also have some faculty democracy fellows who are agreeing to incorporate announcements in their Canvas pages so that all the students will see it, these different deadlines for registering to vote, as well as announcement about upcoming events like our forums and our debate watch opportunities and our parties to the polls. So this is a nice thing. The Democracy Fellows also will help recruit other faculty to include these announcements in their courses. And then several of them have also agreed to build in some assignments that are election related. And then I help them tailor them to their own discipline. We also have language. Well, I'll have recommended language to say, okay, if you're in business and economics, if you are in medical professions, if you are in social work, like what is the language you might use for your students to say why voting is important? So we're really trying to reach students and help them think about their academic career, but also their future career and why they should be involved and engaged. Of course, never ever telling a student how to vote, but really making it clear that IU believes that they should exercise that right and privilege to vote.
And of course, just to elaborate a little bit on different ways we've been trying to mobilize young voters. I'm sure, as you guys can imagine, it can be really difficult to encourage people to vote. There's a lot of people that feel, you know, my one single vote isn't going to make a difference, when of course, we all know that is not the case. So different ways we've been trying to mobilize young voters has been, we celebrated National Constitution Day as well as National Constitution Week. With this, we tabled on campus, gave out goodie bags. We had a QR code available for students to scan to check their registration status or to register to vote. As Dr. Bennion mentioned, we had classroom presentations going on. That way students could be educated in a classroom setting. We've had different tables set up around campus. One particular event that we had that was very popular was a discussion on Roe v. Wade and other constitutional rights. This brought a lot of discussion to a lot of different ideas about how this upcoming election is going to make a difference on different constitutional rights that are going to be up for debate. And I do think that discussion really encouraged a lot of young students to go out and vote. I think we had quite a few students checking their registration status after that conversation. And then a few upcoming events that we have, of course, we've talked about the Discord, but we'll also have Party at the Polls on Vote Early Day. I believe that is Friday, October 28th. So we'll be meeting at River Crossing campus housing at IU South Bend. And then we will be traveling together to go vote early. And then we'll have another Party at the Polls day on Election Day for people that are not available to vote early.
And our pictures have league board members, Amanda Parkinson, and then you could see me with my family. But I just put those because some of you league folks would recommend them. Most of the folks were, of course, current students, and you do see a couple there in the photos as well. Also of interest to league members, Law Academy, we will be talking about voting rights, but also lots of things, expungements, etc. It's a great thing to let other people know about too, who may be in need of legal advice. They're not going to get specific legal advice, but they will get really good basic information they can use. It is totally free and open to the public, and I encourage you to check it out. There is a website and a new Facebook page as well, lawacademy.org, to learn more and to help members of your community who might really need this information. So there was a question, how do we find out what districts we're in for these different categories? And that's where you can go to vote.
I'm sorry, I was muted.
And it will pull up your ballot. You can also go directly to the Indiana Secretary of State website, but vote411.org will redirect you as well. So you can go to indianavoters.com, which is indianavoters.in.gov. It's just a redirect, but you can also go to vote 411. And the nice thing there is not only will it pull up your ballots based on your address, but also you can read about the candidates in each of those races. So we do recommend vote 411. Yes, winner of the Webby Award.
One thing I want to be sure and say before we end here, I want to let you all know about our next Lunch with the League, which is November 11th. And it's going to be one of our members, Nimby Cushing, who's going to be speaking about reparations. So I think that will be very interesting. And so please make sure that you come again. So I have a hand here. Judy, are you, did you want to say something?
Yes, I shared a link in the chat room, which is directs to the county website, which is an interactive map. You can also find your polling place on vote411.org. But when I put my address in vote 411, it only gave me one polling place, whereas the one with the county gives you the 3 or 4 closest ones. And you can put in an address that's close to your errands, like the grocery store that day on November 8th, or your workplace or something. So you can use both.
Yeah, and I think that's a really key point, which is when the St. Joseph County debated vote centers, the first time we did not move to vote centers where you can cast your ballot at any vote center in the county. We were concerned that people would not be close enough to the precinct, that they would not be walkable, that some people may be left out of the routes. But at the same time, we didn't take a strong stand against it because we saw some early indicators based on state league surveys and other data that people really liked the convenience of the vote centers. We also knew that the county was struggling economically to staff all the centers and that it would not only save money, but make sure that the centers were better staffed. What we do see through studies, they do not seem to reduce turnout. People do seem to like the convenience, but the league continues to be vigilant in looking at where those centers are located, because over time they have reduced the number of those centers, which means it's going to be further from somebody. So are they on a public transit line? What can we do to help people get to the polls? And so it's an issue that we're always monitoring carefully. But the good thing is we're not having the problem of people going to the wrong precinct and then being turned away and told to go to a different one, and then they never do and never follow up. So there are some pros and cons to it, some of which we can take care of by being vigilant, and those organizations that actually give rides to the polls and things. That's another good thing. Jerry had an announcement as well. That there has been a lot of discussion and concern about folks showing up at the polls intentionally to try to disrupt proceedings, make allegations. We do want to have folks there who are really devoted to election protection, to making sure that these elections are free and fair. And so there, really, you can see that protectthevote.org, and Jerry is looking for volunteers from the league to get involved in that effort by Common Cause, but also other groups that are concerned about sort of voter advocacy and making sure that everybody can cast their ballot and have that ballot counted.
One last question was, how is Vote 411 paid for?
So it is through the National League. So it is league member dues. I believe they also receive some grants to help support that. Right now, the local league is not paying at all. The state league is paying for local leagues that want to use the platform. So league provides the platform. The ADP provides support with actually running it for St. Joe County and making sure that all those races and those candidates are in. But otherwise there is no cost to us as a local league at the current time. In the past, we have had to pay a fee. I think it was a couple $100 to use the platform. The thing that's nice about the platform is that the candidates do enter their responses directly. So we are never touching their responses. And some candidates want us to cut and paste from a Word document, and we just tell them no. And also the Tribune, and this is always a debate, it was with the old sort of owner of the Trib and the new one, you know, the sort of general managers don't, and executive editors don't like printing typos and things that are not grammatically correct, right? But Corey Haven has, you know, worked with us to kind of convince them that, you know, we just put a disclaimer every time that verbatim means verbatim. Anything you see there was directly entered by the candidate. Make it clear, you know, it's not an editing error. And that way you get around any charge that you have edited in any way a candidate's response. And we also have character limits set up in the guide. Right now we have 1,000, including spaces. We might go to 750, which is what the state league is using, keep them nice and concise. But what happens that way is the computer cuts them out, and they know, and we tell them, type in a word, do your character count, and then paste it into the guide. But that way we're never editing for length, and the Tribune is never editing for length, because the last thing you want to do is edit for length, and the candidate says, that changed the whole meaning of what I said. So we want voters to hear directly from the candidates, not from us. We do not filter. The league does not endorse candidates. We do not do rating cards, right? Our goal with voter services and voter education work is to get people to hear directly from the candidates, whether that's forums, debates, or the voter guide. And that platform makes it easier to do.
Okay, well, before we end, I want to thank you again, Elizabeth, and students Joe, James, and Ashley for all the work you've done. Thank you so much. This was very informative. And yes, thank you. And then don't forget, next month, November 11th, we'll be back again with reparations with NIMBY Cushing. And don't forget, vote411.org. Okay, thank you very much. And we'll see you next month.